Hawks Nation, what is going on? Welcome to another edition of the HawksFanTV podcast. I'm your host, Mac, and I want to apologize yet again for the slight hiatus that we had this last week with not releasing an episode. There's been a lot of moving parts behind the scenes with the podcast. We've got it all hashed out though, got everything squared away, and we're going to work on that consistency going forward. As you guys can see, Alex is actually not with us tonight. Gosh, I should rephrase that. He's still with us, but he's will not be able to record most weeks with us going forward. So AJ, HawksFanTV AJ is actually going to be primarily the co-host going forward. I'm super excited about that. For those of you who don't know AJ or his work yet, he is the chief editor for HawksFanTV. So if you've read any of our articles, you've definitely been influenced by HawksFanTV AJ. So I'm super excited to have him. And I'll give him the mic real quick just to give a little quick intro, and then we'll go into this week's episode's topics and how mid the Hawks have continued to be. But AJ, I will give you the floor, my man.
Yeah, no, just thanks for having me on, man. Proud of you too. I see you and Alex have built a pretty cool thing. And if everyone needs to know, he's got his hands in a couple pots. He's got a lot going on, so just keep in touch with man. He's plugged in with a lot of places. But excited to talk about the home team as always. It's a great time of year. NBA playoffs coming around. You got the Masters, you got MLB, starting up. So it's just a really great time of year. So again, just appreciate you having me on and appreciate everyone that supports, Hawks Fan TV for sure.
Of course, man. Thank you for the respect. Feel the exact same, my man. Feel the same way too. This is one of those times in sport year, national championship just happened last night.
Absolutely.
MLB's kicking off. Shit, man, we might have to do a Braves fan TV at this point. The Braves are looking.
They win a little bit more consistently. That's a little nice.
Exactly. We can, balance the crap that is the Hawks with the great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. So yeah, man, we'll get into this week's topics, and really, guys, I was saying with AJ off air, there just isn't too much of a fresh take with the Hawks right now, guys. It is it's win one, lose one. We are stuck in that. We're stuck at 500. The games that we've had this in the last 2 weeks since we've recorded, we've beat teams like the Mavs, which they're a declining team, but they still have superstars. We've lost to teams like the it was the Grizzlies. I was there at that game. I do want to make one comment about that game real quick. I'm a little disappointed in the Hawks that night because I've never seen State Farm Arena just embody the city of Atlanta more than they did that night, man. It was party. Gucci Man performed at halftime. It was just, people, for it being a Sunday, man, it was lit. It was so much fun. And I just cannot believe we didn't pull off the win. But that's what the Hawks are this season. So I'll be honest, man. I'll get your opinion on it. Like I said, there's no real fresh take, man. It's, I say this with a smile on my face because it's funny, but yet it's true. We're the most mid team the NBA's ever seen, man. It's not exactly a title you want, but it's a title we're gonna carry, man. So yeah, man. What's you feeling on these last few games?
We're statistically, I know everyone's seen that stat now about, being 15 and 15, 14 and 14, 13 and 13, 12, so on and so forth. So, the Hawks, working on the writing side of Hawks Fan TV, this is how I see it really. We, obviously have to delve into a lot of numbers. We're covering pretty much every game that we can, attend or see. And we're seeing the same thing from the last 2 years. The team hasn't changed in the last 2 years. They are who they are at that point. The record is what it is at this point. And at this point, they're more average than plus 500. And that's what they've been the last 2 years. There's a litany of reasons we can go. We can play the injury card because we have been injured in big stretches of times. We can play, the poor shooting. Every NBA team goes through poor shooting, but
we can blame Nate, but we can't blame.
We can't blame Nate anymore. Absolutely, and it just becomes a part of what you are. Now there is ways to change that. I do believe you can bottle magic. We've seen it before, obviously. The Hawks didn't have much of a better record that year, too. I think they were 41 and 33, I believe, when they made the run in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, on top of that, it can be bottled. But with the Hawks lately, it's really tough to say, man. And in all honesty, there hasn't been much to give anyone hope. They find new ways to lose. They find new ways to blow leads. They find new ways to do stuff that, honestly, if you're just a casual fan of basketball, would drive you insane. So that is, like you said, Mac, the prospects of covering, loving, growing up with a team that has just consistently been mid.
Right. No, man, I can't agree with you more. And I'm glad you ended on that note because, like, yes, man, we're Hawks fans. Like, should we realistically have the highest expectations at the end of the day? Probably not. But at the end of the day, what happened in 2021, I've said it on this podcast. I think you've even said it in private conversations. It feels like one of the worst things that could have ever happened at this point, that Eastern Conference Finals run. Because it made, in my mind, I don't know. I don't know what they do in their free time at practice, but it does feel like, to a degree, that they just stopped working because they felt like they had kind of already arrived. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was like, no, guys, like, you put lightning in a bottle, like you said, and you captured it. And, sure, I'll die on this hill like a lot of Hawks fans will. Trae Young doesn't step on that referee's foot. We might have had a championship parade that summer, okay?
You never know. You never know. Yeah.
So, with that being said, that's a lot of times, when you look at, if you go to a Wikipedia page and see the last 10 World Series finals, Super Bowl champions, there'll always be at least one random team where you're like, how did they win it? Because
absolutely.
They bottled that lightning and they went on and won. That's exactly what the Hawks are on their way to do. I dare you to go do the further research. Find what those teams did in the following seasons, even after winning that championship. I guarantee they didn't repeat if even made the playoffs the next year. So point I'm getting at is that I just, like, when I was at the Grizzlies game this last Sunday, I'm sitting there with my girlfriend and I say to her, I was like, look, I love these guys, but I need a new roster next year, man. Like, it feels like, the definition of insanity at this point, where we're doing the same thing, putting the same guys out there, expecting different results. And at this point, it's, I can definitely laugh about it and be lighthearted because at the end of the day, it's a game, it's a sport. I'm a fan. Like, I try not to get that invested into it. But all reality is that, no, man, I did not expect for us to be 39-39. Like, I had much higher expectations. I've had to eat crow because I have decided to be a little bit further than a fan and do this with HawksFanTV. So my takes are out there publicly. And I've had to eat some crow this year because, I was wrong about my projection of what the Hawks are going to do this season. Just like I feel like a lot of Hawks fans were.
Absolutely. I'm one of them.
Exactly. So, remaining realistic for the rest of the season and going into the offseason, all that, I think is something that we as Hawks fans really need to hold on to and keep that, slice of reality in front of us. But, I say it each episode, and it's true, man, because of who we have on our team. And at the end of the day, maybe some guys that we could get in return for X player, Y player, whoever, dude, we could compete for a championship next year. And that's what makes this stuff so damn frustrating, man. Is that it's like we are so talented. I don't know. It's I all you can do is laugh about it at this point and just know for a fact that we will. I'm knocking on wood here. I don't we won't, but we're gonna at least make the play in. Just like last year, go ahead and expect some fireworks. The Hawks in a Trae Young, rather, in a one game winner go home, dude is going to put on a show. So I am excited for that. But other than that, I'm just trying to be even keeled. You know what I mean?
And Mac, and I want to lament on something as well. When we were talking about the Hawks as a franchise, right? I mean, historically, it seems like these past 3 off seasons and even the off season incoming or probably are the biggest off seasons the franchise has had because of that success. So we do demand things like this. We do demand a dramatic change, firing a head coach, which I think, given in time, Quinn Snyder is a top 10 coach in the world, in my opinion, at the game of basketball.
I agree.
And so I think that hire will, definitely pay its fruits off later. But, this offseason coming up is going to be pivotal. I mean, it's going to show if owners are really about what they say, if they're going to spend money. It's going to show what players really want to be here. And it's going to show, what team that Quinn Snyder can actually build when given, the resources. So I totally agree that this is going to be a huge offseason coming.
Oh yeah. No,
We still have a lot of the season coming up too. Do not get me wrong, but guys, you have to admit we hired a coach 2/3 away in the season, and that's a reality. The off season is going to be the playground to see what we can do and what moving parts we can, like you said, X for Y.
oh yeah. No, and to reference again real quick my conversation with Coach Prunty at the Meet the Team event a few weeks ago. He said in today's society we all want instant gratification. The phrase he even said is "fast food isn't fast enough," and I was like,
No, absolutely.
I love that actually. And so obviously what he's getting at is like you got to give Quinn time. I know that's annoying. I know whether you're a young fan or an old fan, at this point I get it, man. The giving it time and all that because of 2021, and that's why I emphasize that so much. You're like, but we were two games away from a finals, and it's like, yeah, but that was something that we just kind of contained and rode for that season, man. Like I don't know. I'm okay if major changes happen. I do think someone of the likes of a John Collins, Bogey, DeAndre, Clint, a pretty big name guy, I do think will be playing for another team next season. But we can harp on that all day. And we're not going to anymore because now we're going to talk about at least something positive that happened.
Yes, bring it on. Let it rain.
The Mavs, and more than likely prevented those bozos from making the play-in even.
Yeah,
so
we swept the season series, by the way, too. We had beaten them in Dallas prior as well.
Exactly. So to be completely honest, I think that might be the first time Trae has swept Luka in a full year.
And may I interject real quick? John Collins just plays so well against the Mavs, man.
Right.
That's a good matchup. Take John Collins. If there's anything you could, whatever gambling sites you're on, get on there. Get on John Collins against the Mavs for sure.
Exactly. John Collins against the Mavs and the Warriors. He's got those two dudes. Two squads. Go ahead and put money on it.
Sure. And he had a big game. That game as well.
Exactly. But yeah, no, man, it's just always great beating the Mavs. I admittedly was at a dinner. I wasn't able to watch most of it. I watched the end of it. I watched the overtime. I got to admit, I thought for a second there we were going to get double overtime. Hey, Luka missing the final shot was just a cherry on top. The referees tried to give him every single chance they could. He cried as much as he could possibly. It was one of those games that with the loss, what it meant for the Mavs, the way Luka handled the game, it's hard to ignore the glaring difference that the media portrays Luka and Trae. If Trae does XYZ, he is a coach killer. He is a bad teammate. He is, ungrateful, like all these horrible adjectives that you can label an athlete. But if Luka does the exact same thing, he just needs more help. He can't figure it out. They excuse him. And to be completely honest, that's why I mentioned Luka like complaining and crying. No, man, I will be the first to admit I would like to see Trae Young not jaw as much at the referees. I think he's done better about it this year. I think he was a little worse last year. Point being is this: you're not going to win, right? It's like arguing with a cop. Like you're not going to win, man. Like. Just appease them. You'll get the calls. We'll win the game. Boom.
Move on. Yeah, and then move on.
So Luka does the exact same thing. He doesn't get called a crybaby by the media. He doesn't, get labeled as this guy who, is whatever it is. And it's because the media is obsessed with being right, man. I know that we're like little media junior members at this point, but the media is obsessed with being right, man. And they wanted to label Trae as a bust, and he's been the exact opposite. He's going to go down as arguably one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game. And the media can't stand that, man. They can't stand it. So they're just going to label him all these horrible things. Luka's the good guy. Trae's the bad guy. And look, man, I don't know how to feel about it at times too. I know you may feel the same because, I feel like it's even relatable with the whole Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese stuff that's going on right now. Sometimes in media, like I'm not going to say the R word. I'm not going to accuse that of anybody, but it does get to the point where it's kind of like, okay, let's call a spade here. What's going on? I'm just saying it with Luka and Trae. I am willing to call that out. I am, because it gets to a point where it's like, look, man, they're doing the exact same things. You have nothing to say about that guy, but you have all of the worst things in the world to say about the other guy. It just gets to the point where it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean? So
And it's just even more frustrating because we as Hawks fans, even Dallas fans that we know too, it's just they're always going to be tied together. So you got to hear about it from both sides, and it completely is a double standard. Absolutely. I mean, Trae Young should be. I mean, this guy's about to do something that hadn't been done since 1979. Tiny Nate Archibald. He might do it in back-to-back seasons. So as Max said, he will go down as potentially one of the best, at least one of the best passing point guards to ever play the game. And I already think, in my personal opinion, I think he's already top 7 in my personal opinion. I mean, he really is phenomenal if you watch on a night in, night out basis what he does, passing the ball. But yeah, to go back to your topic, the media likes to portray stuff. And, I thought it was even cool today to talk about the Caitlin Clark situation. She was came out and said no one needs to criticize what she did. We were competing.
That was awesome.
And I agree with her. We've all played sports. When you lose. Some people want to talk crap, and you take it on the chin because most of the time you're talking crap throughout the game. So
I found you for a reason, man, because you were talking smack when you were up. So
exactly. So and there's little things that go on in the game that people don't see or know. And I'm not even saying I was an athlete like that, but that's even on a a granular level to even where I was playing. So at the same time, it's just frustrating again, just because we're as Atlanta fans, no matter where Trae Young or Luka Doncic end up, how their careers go, what happens, Atlanta will always be, we're linked to that forever.
Right. Exactly.
And I kind of agreed. I heard a take the other day. It's just, let's just leave this topic alone until one of these guys wins a title. One of the guys wins a title. Cool.
I hope it doesn't happen, obviously, but neither guy could end up winning a title, man. So
it could. Yeah.
This argument could just end up being something that, it's
conjecture. Yeah,
exactly. It's arbitrary at this point, man.
Yeah. Still great to see the Hawks come out with a victory, and then what how we were just talking about, they find new ways to lose. At least they found a way to win that time.
Exactly, they did find a way to win. They did. Yeah, I can't lie. When Trae got fouled, he hit his 2 free throws. I was like, oh great, now I'll lose, and we're gonna lose by a point. So
it was absolutely a foul by Kyrie Irving too. It was absolutely a foul
for sure. Yeah, absolutely foul.
Yeah, no doubt.
But yeah, and I guess I hate giving this guy a little bit of credit, but I will admit I did see someone recently say that the problem in Dallas isn't Kyrie, that it's Luka, and that was Trey Smith. So hey, maybe maybe the media is starting to kind of change their tune on Luka a little bit. So we'll see. And at the end of the day, let's just let these athletes be athletes and judge them fairly, no matter what circumstance may be present.
Absolutely.
Amen. So with all that being said, man, we'll just go ahead and wrap up this week's episode on just the rest of the season outlook. We only got 1 week left. Tonight we got probably one of the more important games of the entire season. As we record this, it's a little past 6:30 Eastern Standard Time on April 4th. So tonight we are playing the Chicago Bulls. We sit at 39-39. I believe they are 38-40. I think that's correct.
Sure.
And yeah, man, this is a huge game. I'll say this. I'm sure most people have seen this. By the time you probably listen to the episode, the game may have already happened. But Trae and I believe both DeAndre are out tonight. But I, for one, am expecting a huge game out of Dejounte Murray, man. I think this is exactly why we brought him in. These were games that, last year, the year before, especially, any year before that. If Trae Young and DeAndre Hunter or your 3rd, 4th best player were out, that's a loss for the Hawks.
Absolutely.
But we have Dejounte Murray now who can take over a game, who can easily, not I won't say easily, but can definitely drop 40 points in a night, win the game for you, go off, hit that mid-range like it's nobody's business. So I actually, speaking of DeAndre and DeJounte, I saw that they are both top 6 in mid-range shooting percentage in the NBA right now. So that's pretty nifty. That's good to have. That mid-range can be quite a weapon, man. Shout out Sean Livingston back in the day. But yeah, man, it's I'll say this. I do think we'll get the win tonight, but that probably means that we'll lose the next game. So I'll say this. I actually shout out to Alex real quick. He tweeted from the account. The last 7 or 8 games or so, it's been the win one, lose one. Well, if we continue that through the play-in and the playoffs, we would win the finals, like mathematically. So it's one of those where it's like, hey, I'll take it at this point. We can just keep it up, win one, lose one. Hey, we'll be celebrating the championship at the end of the summer. So
that's pretty funny. That would be such an Atlanta Hawk way to win it finals. I mean, that would I would die. That would be hilarious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, man.
I appreciate you again just having me on here, dude. It was a blast. I look forward to doing it with you some more, man.
Of course, man. Of course. I'll get you. We'll get out of here on this question because next time we record, it will actually probably be the day before it happens, but it'll be the week of. So if the Hawks end up in the play-in, which at this point I think
it's pretty surefire.
The
Wizards
we're going to be in the play-in.
Technically, the Wizards are eliminated, and the Orlando Magic are actually still alive somehow. So we'll be all right.
Yeah. So who would you want to see most in the play-in?
Oof. I mean, I don't like any of these. I mean, the Bulls and Hawks, you guys know how those games go. All 3 games this year have been very quirky and bizarre. So that doesn't make me feel good, especially if we have to go to, Chicago. That doesn't make me feel great. Toronto's just historically not been a good matchup with Trae. Last year they bullied us, and I think this year we've actually took it a little bit back to them. But if I had to pick out of those, I definitely don't want to see Miami. Let me get that.
I was going to say Miami is at the bottom for me.
Miami is a dark horse. Keep an eye out for them in the playoffs. Actually, if I'm really going to go, I'm going to go Chicago. I like our chances. I think Trae could have a big game against them. In a winner go home type situation, and I think that's the team I would like to see. And
Levine's very streaky too. If he goes on a cold streak. I saw it last year. I was at the Bulls game. Dude had at halftime, I want to say like 3 or 4 points, and then ended with 33.
Absolutely.
And I mean, he was shooting it in the first half. Like he's a very streaky player. So I'll say for personal reasons, I don't know how we'd match up. I agree with you. I think this year we kind of took back the whole beating the crap out of each other, even though the first game of the season they did beat us by 30. But that's the Raptors. Personal reasons at this point, I don't know how it really happened, man. But we on Twitter they have become a very, very bitter rivalry. So yeah, man, I would love to send the Raptors home and all those Canadians go.
It's funny though, they just copy Atlanta lingo and stuff. They're not even the 6, bro. You don't even know what that is.
Right? Exactly, man. Exactly.
Oh man, if a Toronto person could tell me what Zone 6 really is. They don't talk. Shouts out Jersey, I guess, too.
Exactly. Well, cool, man. We'll wrap it up on that. Just before we go, obviously, want to thank you guys for the support. Thank you guys for listening. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram at HawksFanTV. .com. You can see all the articles from our man AJ. We got a whole team of writers. They're all very talented. Yeah, guys. Let's keep this hope alive if we can, and let's go to the play-in with high hopes, guys.
Go Hawks, baby.
Yes, sir.